Crimean court ordered equal pre-trial detentions for 2 months for 9 Ukrainian sailors captured by Russia. After the court's decision, all 24 Ukrainians captured by Russia will remain behind bars at least until January 25, 2019. They are being accused of illegally trespassing Russian maritime borders when their 2 military vessels and 1 tugboat attempted to cross from the Black to the Azov Sea via the Kerch Strait. This is the most serious clash between Moscow and Kiev in years in what is effectively a frozen conflict. Ukrainian leadership introduced martial law in parts of the country, saying it fears a possible Russian invasion. Speaking in northern Ukraine, Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko, who has accused Moscow of naked military aggression, talked about his country's readiness to respond to any future Russian military action. Ukraine's armed forces, as well as divisions of the country's state border guard service, have been put on alert to ensure security. Russian President Vladimir Putin accused Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko of orchestrating a naval provocation in the Black Sea at the weekend in order to boost his popularity ratings before an election next year. Putin, speaking at a financial forum in Moscow, said the West was ready to forgive Ukrainian politicians their shortcomings because it bought into the anti-Russian narrative Kiev is promoting. He said the Ukrainian vessels had clearly been in the wrong. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis said that Russia's seizure of 3 Ukrainian Navy ships violated treaty between the two countries, ensured that Moscow cannot be trusted. Russia seized the Ukrainian vessels near Crimea, the Ukrainian region which Moscow annexed in 2014. Russia alleges illegal entry of Ukrainian vessels into Russian waters, which Ukraine denies. Mattis was speaking at the Pentagon to reporters before greeting Lithuanian Defense Minister Raimundas Karoblis, who told reporters that Russia's latest actions at Crimea announced to an act of regression. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the United States should stop encouraging provocative moves by Ukraine and instead mediate between Kiev and rebel-held Ukrainian regions. Russia seized 3 Ukrainian naval vessels and their crews on Sunday over what it said was their illegal entry into Russian waters, something Ukraine denies. Lavrov said the Ukrainian warships had ignored maritime law when they tried to enter the Kerch Strait, aiming to create a scandal for domestic political purposes. He added U.S. encouragement for such acts saddens him greatly. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is willing to meet with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman when he attends the Group of 20 summit in Argentina. Guterres said he wants to see an end to the war in Yemen. The G20 summit will see the prince making a first major appearance on the world stage since the brutal killing of dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The UN chief, however, remained focused on the Yemen war and told reporters that there was a chance that talks to end Yemen war could begin in early December. The U.S. Senate voted to advance a resolution to end U.S. military support for the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen's civil war, setting the stage for a possible final vote on the measure within days, underscoring bipartisan unhappiness with President Donald Trump's response to the humanitarian crisis in Yemen and the murder of a journalist at a Saudi consulate. Many of Trump's fellow Republicans joined Democrats to advance the measure by a vote of 63-37. Nancy Pelosi, a mainstay of American politics for nearly 2 decades, was nominated by her fellow Democrats to again be the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. As Democrats prepare to retake control of the House, Pelosi, 78, won the secret ballot contest in which she had no opponent. Over the next few weeks, she will try to win over enough naysayers within her own party to nail down a victory in early January when the full House convenes to elect a new Speaker. Republicans, who next year will be in the minority for the first time since 2010, are expected to vote against any Democratic nominee for Speaker. The Bank of England has said Britain risks suffering an even bigger hit to its economy than during the global financial crisis 10 years ago if it leaves the European Union in a worst-case Brexit scenario in 4 months' time, hours after the government issued its own stark warning about no-deal Brexit. The Bank of England said the economy could shrink by as much as 8% in about a year. The two reports could pressure lawmakers to drop their opposition to the Brexit agreement that Prime Minister Theresa May struck with other EU leaders. Just hours after Afghan President Ashraf Ghani outlined plans for peace, a car bomb targeted a British security contractor's compound in Kabul, making way for several gunmen to enter the compound. The Taliban claimed responsibility for this attack, which hit a facility of the G4S security group near an industrial park on the main road leading out of Kabul towards eastern Afghanistan. An Interior Ministry spokesman said that the gunmen who had entered the G4S compound after the car bomb were being tackled by Afghan security forces. Officials and residents of Afghan province of Helmand said at least 30 Afghan civilians were killed in U.S. airstrikes in this area. The latest casualties come from a surge in air operations aimed at driving the Taliban into talks. Afghanistan's NATO-led force said Afghanistan government forces and U.S. advisors came under fire from Taliban fighters in a compound in Guterres-Mbs district and called in an airstrike. But the ground forces were not aware of any civilians in or near the compound. Helmand Provincial Governor Mohammad Yasin Khan said troops had called in airstrikes against Taliban fighters in Guterres-Mbs, causing both civilian and Taliban casualties. While Argentina braces for the G20 summit, thousands of Argentines took to the streets of Buenos Aires carrying protest signs and accusing the G20 leaders of only wanting to take advantage of the region. Public service workers surrounded Saudi Arabia's embassy with barricades while anti-riot police kept a close eye on the demonstrators. Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was among the first world leaders to arrive for the summit. Argentina's Treasury Minister and country's economy will likely contract by less than the 2.4% the government forecast for this year, speaking ahead of a meeting of the leaders of the group of 20 industrialized nations in Buenos Aires. He said that Latin America's third largest economy would also likely beat the government's forecast for a contraction of 0.5% next year. The economic forecasts for 2018 and 2019 were contained in a budget bill sent to Congress in September. Hundreds of members of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community who demand blanket exemption from military conscription staged a protest at a major Jerusalem intersection. Protesters holding demonstrations said they turned out in solidarity with an ultra-Orthodox man who had been arrested for draft dodging. The protesters scuffled with the police, which had to resort to water cannons to contain the crowd. Hundreds of health service workers and firefighters tried to storm the Catalan parliament in Barcelona to demand better working conditions. The demonstrators crowded around the main doors of the parliament, but police held them back. Medical workers in white coats waved banners reading "Less talk, more resources." Firefighters in brown protective uniforms and yellow helmets lit flares and burned an effigy attached to a wooden cross. Greenpeace activists braved chilling conditions as they remained on top of a power station chimney to protest against Warsaw's coal policies. The activists climbed the 180-meter chimney at a power station in Bełchatów, central Poland, pressing their demand to phase out coal use. Greenpeace protest comes as Poland gears up to host COP24 Global Climate Summit. 6 of the 9 activists who climbed an internal ladder to the top of the conical chimney remained there overnight. The 3 who descended, as well as 4 other activists who did not climb the chimney, were arrested and held for trespassing before being released. During a state visit to Madrid, China's President Xi Jinping said China will widen market access for foreign investors and will step up protection of intellectual property rights. Speaking before the Spanish upper house of parliament, Xi also said China planned to import $10 trillion worth of goods over the next 5 years. Scientists from China and other countries have generally questioned Chinese professor He Jiankui, who claimed to have created the world's first gene-edited babies. In an online video posted on Monday, he announced that the twin baby girls were conceived through IVF and genetically edited for immunity to HIV infection. The Chinese Union of Life Science Societies and the Ethics Committee of the Chinese Academy of Sciences both published statements on the issue. They claim the research conflicts with moral principles and violates relevant regulations. Exit polls from Georgia's presidential runoff showed the ruling party-backed candidate who favors balancing relations with Moscow and the West beating a rival who advocates a stronger pro-Western line. The opinion poll suggested Shalom Zurabishvili, a former French career diplomat who served as Georgia's foreign minister from 2004 to 2005, won with 58% of the vote, while her opposition rival Grigol Bashadze, also a former foreign minister, was seen winning 42% of the vote. A French tourist was rescued from the mountains of southern Peru after he set out for a hike on Saturday and never returned. Police video showed rescue workers tending to and carry the man away in a stretcher. Local media reported the man, who had minor injuries and was dehydrated when he was found by the team of local rescue workers. He had apparently set out from his hotel, where he left his wife, who alerted authorities when he did not return Saturday evening. Turbulent seas and waves could be seen from a ferry travelling to Dublin as Storm Diana lashed the UK and the island. The UK's National Weather Service issued yellow weather warnings for part of the UK and Ireland bordering the Irish Sea. It forecast winds of up to 70 miles per hour and heavy rain, while saying it should become moderate leading into Thursday. Waves crashed onto the side of a ferry travelling from Wales to Dublin as Storm Diana lashed the UK and Ireland. A video and photograph uploaded to the internet showed waves crashing onto the bow of the ferry en route to Dublin in Ireland. Steve Doherty, who uploaded the video, was on his way home to Ireland to get married. He said everyone on the boat was feeling sick, later adding that the ferry made it safely to Dublin, but with a lot of broken plates on board.